Making Habits, Breaking Habits, a book that I read. And here's what I learned. Habits are thoughts and actions that we participate in all the time. Habits are performed largely on a subconscious level, without much emotion, and are strongly rooted in specific contexts. What this means is that you're not really choosing to do things with your free will, but rather engaging with the environment as an emotionally voided, will-less puppet of your own automatic behaviors. Check this out. The frontal lobe is the part of the brain associated with doing things on purpose. And some French dude demonstrated that patients with damage to their frontal lobes reacted completely habitually to objects placed in front of them every single time, even directly after being told not to. He coined this phenomenon utilization behavior. And it means that once you've established a habitual response to a specific item, you literally have to inhibit yourself from using that item in the same basic way every time. Stop playing in tune. Damn it, I said stop playing in tune. Since we can basically brainwash ourselves into doing something a certain way, it's good to learn methods for creating new as well as changing current behaviors. Now, if you're one of the masses and you think you're going to be able to change your habits by sheer willpower alone, you're wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong. Intention, or what you think you want, has been shown to be effective in controlling weak habits, but is no match for what psychologists refer to as strong habits. You know how often you have to do something for it to be considered a strong habit? 1 time per week. The funny thing about this is that while we clearly have little to no control over ourselves, we tend to think we have the greatest control over those habits which are strongest. My precious. What? Since the gap between you thinking you want to change and actually being able to change is so wide, you need a plan. Here's a plan. First, you gotta know what you want. Duh, 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 duh. It also helps to know why you want it. As it turns out, it's much more difficult to follow through with the work of making a change if you really don't care. Furthermore, people who have conducted scientific studies have empirically proven that people who expect success in realistic terms rather than living in purely fantastical fantasy worlds seem to do better at life. Thinking of your plans as something you'll actually do implies a certain amount of not wanting to do them. And coming to terms with those things which may prevent you from realizing your fantastical fantasies will help you create logical actions for overcoming those roadblocks. For example, I want to become a great improviser. The problem is, I'm so scared of sounding bad that the thought of taking a solo on a gig makes me want to poop my pants. So, to help me overcome this fear, I can create a unique if-then scenario to help me take action. How about this? If I am scared my solo will suck so bad that the bandleader never calls me again, then I will remind myself that moving through my fears and growing as a musician is more important than this $50 gig. At the root of all this if-then crap is tying behaviors together in what can be thought of as a chain. You know, like a chain that only has 2 links. Wait a minute. If I already had an established chain, I could just slip a new behavior in there without much trouble at all. Your life is chock full of chains. You wake up in the morning, play with your cell phone, go to the bathroom. If you can identify a pre-existing chain, sliding in a new behavior is pretty easy. And it has the added bonus of working. To apply this to trumpet playing, we can use a little something I've invented called the practice routine. Here's my practice routine. Now, if I want to get in the habit of, say, buzzing on my mouthpiece, I can stick it in right after my short tones practice and just before I obsess about equipment for 5 minutes. With a clearly defined time and place for me to practice buzzing on my mouthpiece, it shouldn't be long before that becomes a habitual part of my practice routine. As simple as this may seem, there are a few things you may want to keep in mind to help make your transition into greatness as smooth as possible. First, thinking that you're going to find the super most awesomest habit and effortlessly fit it into your life on the first try is idiotic at best. You really can't know how easy or hard something is going to be until you start doing it. So if your if-then strategy doesn't initially work out, you probably need to make the action easier or find a better place in your pre-existing habit chain. Monitoring how you feel about your new habits is also helpful, because if something really sucks, it's difficult to keep it up long enough for it to become an automatic behavior. This is because self-control is a limited resource, and since caving in is an inevitable part of human existence, it's best to start by making small, simple changes that are almost imperceptible from day to day. Now that you know how to develop new habits, here's a method for changing the ones you've already got. First, you must gain awareness of the habit you'd like to change, because bad habits are easier to get rid of if you know they're there. It's useful to use a video camera, as this can help you identify those things which are holding you back in life. Once you've zeroed in on something you'd like to change, try to identify what's happening internally and externally that's setting off the habit. For instance, when I want to practice my trombone, it's usually because I'm bored and depressed. Having identified the states that lead to trombone playing, I can now replace that coping mechanism with something less harmful. The reason we have to replace the habit rather than just get rid of it is because suppression doesn't work. Don't think about the color red. I said stop thinking about the color red. When we try to stop thinking about or doing something, we set our subconscious on a search for that very thing. And anything that even remotely resembles the image we're trying to suppress will trigger it. Since bad habits don't die, and they can be difficult to change, you need to be highly motivated to change them. To help figure out if changing your habit is worth the energy, compare the negative aspects of not changing your habit to the potential positive outcomes of changing that habit. From there, it should be fairly clear if changing your habit is worth the effort. One final note on habits is that the length of time and number of repetitions needed to form a new habit varies depending on the difficulty of the habit. So if you've ever read a claim stating that it takes 21 days to form a new habit, that is complete bullshit. Over a wide study of habits, it's been found that the average number of days needed to form a new habit was 66. And if you missed a day or two, it didn't seem to make any difference. This should be good news, as it means that you can stop freaking out. Develop a habitual life that is awesome and unique to you. I recommend buying this book, reading this book, and applying what you like about this book. It contains some interesting case studies, some interesting words, iterative, capture error, motivated cueing, implementation strategies, odd-toed ungulate mammal, Janusian, Ballus, and certainly some interesting ideas for change. You can pick up a copy in the wild, or better yet, through any of the affiliate links on blackwellstrumpetbasics.com or through the email you received as a subscriber. That way, I make a small commission at no additional charge to you and can make it rain. Check this out! A book that I read. You want to put in the legwork to put in the legwork. Leg habit is worth the